Hey, it's Jeremy with Civitas Law Group and showing you today some Hollywood fallacies about estate planning. So we are going to be doing some reviews of a couple of shows, Knives Out and Suits LA, but more for the purpose of showing you just how bad Hollywood is at teaching people what estate planning is supposed to look like.
You all stay in town until the investigation is completed.
Well, he's gently requesting, but I'm gonna have to make that an order. No one move until we figure this all out.
What? Can we ask why? Has something changed?
No.
No, it hasn't changed, or no, we can't ask?
Mr. Stevens, you may continue.
Right. Well, the other
So one of the things that Knives Out gets right about estate planning, a lot of other movies and TV shows get wrong, is this fallacy of we all need to sit around and hear what the will has to say. Well, at least the Knives Out scene actually begins with, well, it's not legally necessary. I thought it would just be nice because you're all here. Yeah, it's not just not legally necessary. In fact, I've never heard of a scene like this actually happening in real life where we all say, let's meet together and see what the will says. Okay, so fallacy number one here that Hollywood gives us all the time is that this is how people find out what they're going to receive from somebody's estate. It shouldn't be a secret. Okay, if you have an estate plan, unless you've got some ne'er-do-well child that you just don't want to leave anything to, or you're going to give their brother control over it so that they don't go blowing all their money, then if that's not your case, if you've got a relatively, normal life, then make sure everybody knows what the plan is. Have it in a place where people can actually get to it. In fact, the person that should be the trustee or the executor, the people that are your representatives on your powers of attorney and your other documents, they should have a copy of your plan. They should all know what's going to happen in advance. Because what happens if something happens to you and nobody can find the plan, right? Okay, so that's the first fallacy that Hollywood gives us.
I thought this gathering would be beneficial is because Harlan altered his will a week before he died. He sealed it. He asked me not to submit it to the courts for probate until after his death. So, if anyone is confused about anything, we're all together, we can talk.
Okay, now Knives Out got something else right. They actually mentioned probate, and they mentioned the fact that the will would have to go to probate. That's kind of nice. Probate is a court proceeding that literally means, probate is a Latin-based word that means to prove. You have to send a will, every will, to probate, at least here in the state of Arizona, has to go to probate to prove that this is in fact the decedent's desires. Okay, so they want to give the house and the money to Joe, and they want to give what's in the 401k to Bob, and they want to give what's in this other account to Jill, right? Okay, all of that still has to go to probate. Okay, now the second fallacy that Hollywood gives us all the time is that it's always a will. Here we are in Knives Out. We're looking at what looks like a really nice estate. Looks like this guy's loaded. This guy shouldn't have a will. He should have a trust. Trusts, for the most part, bypass probate. Trusts basically form a bucket. You take everything you own, you put it in the bucket. You have both hands on the bucket during your life, and it creates this sort of legal fiction that right before you died, you handed that bucket off to the next person. Now there's a lid on top, and they can only reach into that bucket and start distributing if it follows the instructions that are on that bucket. That's kind of how a trust works. How a will works is that you just give people stuff, and it has to go to court, and it has to be followed to the T. Okay? Whereas a trust, you can write in there and say, well, if he's in this situation, give him that. If he's not in that situation, then give him this. So typically speaking, somebody who is as well off as this guy looks, that's going to be a trust. That's not going to be a will. So there you go, fallacy number two.
Harlan's assets included
The house.
the house, which he owned outright.
60 million.
Yes, 60 million in various cash accounts and investments. And of course, the real asset, sole ownership of Blood Like Wine, his publishing company. He also wrote up a statement when he was making the changes, and he wanted that read first.
Okay, so just to be clear, a really, really nice house, 60 million in cash and assets, and the way these people are reacting when they talk about this company, Blood Like Wine, Looks like that's a really good money-making company. So yeah, all of those things, you're not just going to need a trust, you're going to probably need multiple trusts. If you're going to want to avoid things like the federal estate tax, which kicks in at $11 million, then you're probably going to want to do multiple trusts. So for this all to be happening with a will, no, not if this guy has any intelligence whatsoever. That's not going to happen.
My entire ownership of Blood Like Wine Publishing, I leave in its entirety to Marta Cabrera. The copyright of its catalog, likewise, I leave in its entirety to Marta Cabrera.
No. That's not.
No.
No. That can't be.
No.
Can I see that, please, Alan?
That's right.
Please.
This can't be legal.
It's right. He's been.
Oh my God.
He's been.
Aren't there safeguards? Tell us there's a mistake.
I don't know what to say. We're his family, so.
Okay, so this attorney, he's holding what is a very controversial will. He just pulled it out of a sealed envelope. Everybody sort of bum rushes the table and starts complaining about it and saying, oh, you're going to leave everything to her. And I haven't even seen this movie in its entirety. I don't even know who her is. And I guess we're not supposed to at this point yet. That's okay. But the attorney just lets them take this will and they start passing it around and they're all looking at it. Any one of them could throw it on the fire. Guess what happens? In the state of Arizona, at least, the only probatable, or in other words, the only copy of a will that can go to probate to make those asset distributions happen is that original. A photocopy of a will is not a will. So he's letting them pass around the only thing that can actually make these crazy wishes happen. That attorney's not going to let that happen. He could probably be sued for malpractice by whoever this girl is that's getting all the stuff, if in fact that will did go on the fire or get torn up or whatever it is. Because if it gets destroyed, she's probably not getting those assets.
They're the Thrombeys, goddammit! This is still our house!
Oh, sorry. Likewise, the house at 2 Dearborn Drive and all belongings therein, I leave to Marta Cabrera.
Okay, so then they say, oh, this is still our house. They're trying to throw the police out. They're trying to throw everybody out. They're trying to take control of the situation. They say, this is still our house. And then the attorney gets down to the bottom. He says, oh, actually, the house is going to Marta Cabrera also. Doesn't make that house hers that moment. It means she may have an interest in it, but that document's got to go to probate. To get anything done, they've got to go to probate and actually prove it. And all of these people are actually naming, if you hear some of the chatter that's going on and they're all kind of yelling and screaming, some of them are saying, oh, he was on medication. They're trying to question his mind at the time that he signed this document. He died a week later. So it could be brought into question. Was he actually of sound mind at the time? Who were the witnesses? Who was the notary? Who actually drafted the document? This attorney here is looking like he's pretty surprised by what he's reading in that will, and it came from a sealed envelope. So, who actually witnessed that? They've all got pretty substantial claims to question the validity of this will. So the house is not Marta Cabrera's today, and in fact, it might not ever be. Okay, but of course, Knives Out is not the only one that gets it wrong all the time. Suits LA, which I was enjoying for a hot second, but now has been canceled, and I'm kind of okay with it, in episode 3, had another scene a little bit like what we just saw.
For your information, I had no idea he named me executor until after he died.
Fine. I'll make this easy for you. Whatever he left, sell it. Donate it.
I don't care, because I don't
Want it.
Fine. But I'm required to execute the entire will in the will.
Will states he's to be buried next to Eddie.
Stuart, if you think for 1 second that I'm gonna let
That's
you...
enough. You've been coming at me all day. I didn't do this.
Okay, so essentially, Ted Black here is finding out that his dad made his former best friend, but now an enemy to him, the executor of his estate. Or in other words, the person responsible for divvying up all the stuff out of the will. But then they also go and throw in another Hollywood estate planning fallacy for us, and that is that a will just dictates everything. That a will is going to say where you're supposed to be buried and how. Now, it's possible. Some states may do that. It could vary from state to state. Here in Arizona, if people have burial wishes, they actually go in the medical power of attorney. That's where I put them for my clients all the time. If the clients want to be buried versus cremated or where they want their ashes spread, that's in the medical power of attorney. So the Hollywood fallacy is in fact that the will is the be-all end-all of estate planning, when in fact a good estate plan is probably, for most people but not everyone, a trust, pour-over will, living will, general power of attorney, medical power of attorney. Could vary from state to state, and there are several other smaller one-page documents that I didn't even mention in there. But here we go. Hollywood teaches us, hey, I got a will, I'm fine. You're not. All right, so I probably could have shown you about 100 other scenes about secret will readings and how wills are mishandled and how every single show that talks about estate planning only discusses the will. It's in almost every movie or TV series where somebody passes away. It's just the will, the will, the will. You never hear about a trust, at least not much, unless somebody has billions. That's not the case. So don't believe these Hollywood fallacies, and hope you enjoyed the review today. We'll see you next time.